In Chatelet, my dudes, and welcome to Polecat cast number 114, Manchester Bombed, Women Most Affected, where our stealthy polecats ferret out the best feels, funnies, and what the fucks to discuss Slam Bam Badger style. Strap yourselves in, lock up the bleach, and make sure the only pills that you plan on overdosing on are the red ones. Welcome to the dankest timeline, and special thanks to the CIA ninjas for tuning in. Today's Polecat panel consists of the big half of Big and Robot, Scott, the silverback self-aware simian, Max Darrett, Simpsonskin, and definitely not Snoopy's little bird friend, Woodstock, Polecat Punster and Pussycat Punisher, Hannah, Dr. Randomercam, Panda, Puppet Master, and long-range rhetorician, and me, your host, the Doge in Charge. Today we'll be discussing the following topics. It looks like UCLA is actually financially investing in its students, assuming they do some professional ongoing activism while on campus. George Soros would be proud. Are you a pregnant woman who has no sense of personal accountability or responsibility towards a little life that you might be carrying because you want to get sloshed? Congratulations, because there are researchers and other activist types who agree with you. And the reasons are that the reason is recommending against preggo women getting trashed is, wait for it, it's sexist. Fuck that cluster of cells anyway. Professional academic trolls write up a postmodern college paper full of bullshit gobbledygook just to see if it can get past all those robust peer reviewers and become a real-life paper. How well do they do? Former Baywatch babe, actress, and now mostly plastic Barbie doll, Pamela Anderson has already come to the defense of male victims of false rape accusations in the past. But now she has made another triggering statement. She has declared herself an anti-feminist. In the wake of the suicide of Soundgarden frontman Chris Cornell, it is important to talk a bit about male suicide and why Cornell's death is looking more like the rule than the exception. I'm sure you've all heard about the deaths of over 20 people at Ariana Grande's concert show in Manchester. We are going to be digging into an article about that very matter. And finally, our bonus story for the patron-only after show. Between the headlines about the UVA frats, the Canadian broadcaster Gian Gomeshi, and Bill Cosby, it seems like sexual assault allegations are dominating the news. But in Britain, there has been a recent spate of headline-grabbing cases where the people ultimately charged aren't the alleged rapists, but the women who filed the claims in the first place. Those poor dears. It looks like it's time to explore the problem with prosecuting women for false rape allegations. That's right. The women are still the victims. Anyway, if you want to participate in our after shows either as an audience member or a participant, please consider becoming a patron at www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio. Lastly, I'd like to send out a message. Make sure, guys, that Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks is still with us. I understand that since the InfoWars have been made official White House correspondents, he is on suicide watch. So, let us get into the stories, and I will hand it off to Max to get us started. Would you please, sir?
Yes, start off with something that's, I don't know, it's kind of funny, except not really. So, for those of you who are fans of The Simpsons, like I am, obviously I am Simpsonskin, remember that one episode where Homer was trying to sell like a sexual performance enhancer inside of a mall, like in liquid form? And he goes up to one guy and says, "Hello, sir, you look like a man who needs help satisfying his wife." Now, imagine that, but in real life, and instead of a sex drug, it's social justice. Well, that is exactly what is happening at the University of California, Los Angeles. And to top it all off, the school is paying people to do it. A new program titled the Social Justice Advocates Program is going to help students navigate a world that operates on whiteness, patriarchy, and heteronormativity as the primary ideologies. That's a direct quote. Roughly 8 to 10 social justice advocates will be selected for the upcoming fall semester. They will have to spend 3 hours per week facilitating their duties, which include weekly meetings and, wait for it,
This is a long wait. Max? Hello? Are we still waiting? Max! Did we lose him? Or is he just, like, really making us wait for it? Can you guys talk? Uh-oh. I got no sound. I don't know why that is. Hold on a second. Let me try something. Hello?
Roger radio, but for myself.
Oh, shit. There he is. What happened?
What?
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Did I drop out?
Okay.
Yeah, you seriously? It was...
Never guess what you dropped out.
It was so perfect.
Oh god.
You said wait for it, and then there was no more sound.
Wow. That's hilarious.
We were like waiting.
Yeah.
Get back.
I seriously, that was good because I thought you were literally making us wait extra long. Okay,
Right?
so
I hit my breaking point and then I just offed myself.
Another male suicide report today, and said
Max?
news is Max dead, former badger.
I should have been like Max. Max. Max.
I'm still here, Brian. Okay. So, what I meant to say was, wait for it. They have to do crafting presentations as a part of their duties, being a social justice advocate. To continue on with what I was saying, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. My internet runs on a potato, much like GLaDOS does in Portal 2. The program is funded through the Bruin Excellence in Student Transformation Grant Program, which receives funding from the university's Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. I'm still with you, right?
Yes.
It is no secret that we here at Honey Badger Radio report on pre-existing articles during our shows. This particular story happens to come from an excellent news aggregator called Campus Reform, which, of course, reports on all the social justice hysteria happening on campuses across the USA. Now, the best part of this whole story is the fact that students who participate in this social justice program have been ordered by their supervisor to not talk to Campus Reform and to defer interview requests to the UCLA Media Department. Now, in the meantime, I would like to take a second to not speak for Honey Badger Radio, but for myself. If you go to UCLA and somebody comes up to you who says, "Hello, sir, you look like somebody who takes pleasure in subjugating minorities," I recommend you reply with the following. "Well, hello, you look like a massive tool who needs to do something productive for once in their lives, like suck a dick and or clit." Brian?
Fuck college. Does anybody else have any opinions?
Are they gonna wear black pants and white shirts, button-down shirts, and ties, and carry a book of their beliefs and everything as they walk around? Or
khaki shorts, and they ride around on bicycles and...
Oh no, they don't wear khaki shorts. They wear black pants or black shorts.
Yeah, it's got to be black. It's got to be black.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on where they're coming from, because there's two different denominations that do this, and one of them is a little more dress code oriented, and the other one just wears very conservative clothes. So you can kind of tell who's coming up to your door depending on whether they're dressed like an undertaker that just took his jacket off, or whether they've just whether they just look like preppy out of the 1980s.
Hannah, for the record, I think you're talking about Utah. We're talking about the UCLA.
No, they go all over the states. I've had them come to my door in Ohio, so they leave Utah and go everywhere to do this, and they go to California. Ever seen Orgasmo?
Yeah.
They come to my house, and I'm in Virginia of all places.
Well, they probably think the entire state is celibate,
Greetings, Miss Wallen. You look. Did you know that the Garden of Eden was originally in Jackson County, Missouri?
Well, I have my own special way of dealing with unwanted salespeople that come to my door, whether they're selling products, or change your electric company, or the idiots that come here every so often to ask me to subscribe to a different gas company, even though gas lines don't come to my apartment complex. And it would be a lot of fun to deal with these people. I almost wish I was still in college.
I think
but I wouldn't have gone there anyway.
was somebody else. I think Mike might have been trying to get in there, but I'm not sure to talk about this.
Nope, can't think of anything yet.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is just sad. It's just sad because I think that it would appear that it's I wouldn't call it illuminating because it's not like we didn't know this, but if there was anybody that had any doubt that what colleges produce are essentially professional activists that aren't going to be able to get any actual useful life skills unless they go into a very specific profession that has very specific courses like STEM fields, medicine, that kind of shit, right? They are just being made into activists, just professional activists. And this is a way to get people started on that path so they can go into more teaching or, I don't know, what is it that activists do as actual jobs? They go into media, they go into journalism, and they go into the entertainment industry.
It's a very specialized field. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's called, I believe it's pronounced barista. I think that's the proper term. I believe that is the proper term.
Hey, Scott.
Please, chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm new at this.
Scott, it's pronounced barista. Okay.
Barista.
Gotta roll your R's. Roll your R's.
It's pronounced forever in debt. Otherwise known as interest slave.
In the red.
Yep.
On the plus
Now,
side, you learn to blame the corporations for what happened to you when you end up in debt instead of the school for not giving you any useful skills.
Well, and not
your parents for
the advisor you had in college, because when you go to college, you don't just go in and sign up for your classes and take your courses. You know, you get an advisor that is supposed to guide you through. This is a good idea. This is a bad idea. This isn't going to earn you any money. You can't take this class before you take this class and expect to get as good of a grade if you take the other class first. You know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of advisors out there that are apparently not getting it across to students that the best idea in college is to get a degree for which, when you get out of college, there is a job market. And unfortunately for a lot of students, the heyday of the print media job market is past because of the internet. And the internet media job market is a lot more like the music job market, as opposed to like the old music job market, as opposed to the old print media job market. Because in the old print media job market, if you weren't stellar or you weren't fortunate enough to get a job with a big newspaper, every little town had its own newspaper. And there's been a lot of little town newspapers that have folded because they can't get advertising dollars because the advertisers are advertising online now or on people's phones. And, there's not the same money in it. These guys are really fucking themselves and they don't have any idea. And the university isn't doing, like the staff at the university is not doing what they should be doing for the students. They have forgotten that the point of going to college is to prepare yourself for the job market. And, but regarding this specific behavior, this evangelism, this social justice evangelism, I would treat it, with absolute mocking and ridicule, but in a way that would humiliate the person if they come up to you and start pushing this shit, because nobody's going to do this unless they're an ideologue. Nobody's going to do this because they're looking to make friends. They're going to do this because it gives them the opportunity to bully people. It's a flat out, period, the way it is. Nobody takes a job or joins a club to go around and tell everybody how bad they are and what sins they're committing, unless they're looking for the opportunity to bully people. And my response, if I were on campus today, as soon as one of them walked up to me and started spouting this shit, my answer would be to shout, "Bad touch! Bad touch! Stop it! Leave me alone! Get away from me! Harassment!"
I do not consent.
They'll leave you alone. They'll leave you alone. Or you want me to do what for $20? What kind of a person are you? Just anything like that. By golly, they'll leave you alone after that. They won't bother you again.
You know,
Want me to condense? Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say the thing that I find kind of, I don't want to say it's troubling, but I think it's telling more than anything else is the one part here where the best part of the story is the fact that students who participate in a social program have been ordered by their supervisors to not talk to campus reform. And this is something that we see in ideology. Like, say, for instance, Scientology is a really good. People aren't allowed to talk to other people.
Right, Scott.
Can't talk to the news about it. What?
There's something up with your mic, and I know you just got a new setup, but it seems like what's going on is you have your mic might be like only picking up your voice when your volume gets to a certain point, because it seems like it cuts off in between words or in between sentences.
How about, is that better now?
Yeah, that seems good. No, that's good. That's good. Do you know what I mean, though? Like, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Like, okay.
Yeah. Like if you hit the threshold, it drops out.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Is it staying consistent now, though?
Yes.
Is it doing okay now?
Sounds great.
All right. Well, the thing that bugs me about this is, like, when you look at that and the supervisors are telling these people not to talk to college reform, is that this is the kind of thing you see in ideologies, like a very specific example being Scientology, where they're not allowed to talk to news, they're not allowed to talk to pretty much anybody else about it, and like they're like, if somebody approaches you, you tell us and we'll deal with it.
Yeah, or that rule. There's that rule in Islam. It has a specific name that basically tells you if you're in Islam, you're supposed to lie to people outside of Islam. Like, you're allowed to. Not only that, you're encouraged to.
Yeah, as long as they're an infidel.
Yes.
But don't lie to another Muslim.
Right.
But this, like I said, this is very telling of the kind of culture that this is coming from. This is an ideology. This is not about learning. This is about indoctrination. And like I said, I find that bothersome. I find that very bothersome. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of sad that more people don't, honestly. Yeah. And that this thing is happening.
This should be extremely troubling. Wizard of Cause in the chat said that one of the reasons why this sort of that this is going on is an entire generation has also been raised being told that they were supposed to change the world, and a lot of times that is there's like this incredible, I wouldn't call it I guess it's sort of like pressure, but it's also like there's this, putting the student at the center of everything and saying, you were brought here to make the world a better place. Before we can
You're the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah, you're the leaders of tomorrow, right? And every generation gets that message sent to them. That, there's an expectation that what they have been given in the, being born into this sort of, modern age of comfort and excess and everything, is that they should not take it for granted, and they should take advantage of these opportunities to try to make their life to do better than their, parents did, and so on. Yeah. And then also to make sure that the life of their kids is going to be better than theirs was, right? This is like encouraged. But I think that there's like this almost Messiah-like message that's being pumped into kids, especially in college, because I got it when I was in school recently, even though it bounced off me because I was old and pessimistic and curmudgeon-y by that time. But when you're young and starry-eyed and you're like, oh, I'm going to school, I'm going to make the world better, and everyone tells you that this is what you're supposed to do, then you're going to grab that shit and you're going to run with it, and you're going to buy into it because it's actually, quite useful, I guess is what I'm saying. Like it's useful to make you feel like you're important.
It's intoxicating.
Yes.
It's intoxicating is what
exactly.
it is.
Exactly.
It's like, I have a purpose. I have a reason to be. Mm-hmm. And people look up to me.
The downside of that is
power goes to your head.
Yeah, and the downside of that is that in order for you to feel empowered to go and make the world a better place, it has to be presented as a shitty place that has a lot of work that needs to be done and a lot of things that need to be fixed. And a lot of times in order to do that, they have to make up problems. And that's how come students are navigating in a world that operates on whiteness, patriarchy, and heteronormativity, which is what they're fighting against, right? You need an enemy. In order for you to be a social justice advocate, there has to be a lot of injustice, and some of it has to be made big enough that essentially you have to like have monsters to fight.
Oh, dude, you know what this reminds me of? What you're saying right now? Do you remember the video of Tom Cruise, the Scientology video of Tom Cruise that leaked?
Oh,
and
God.
popped up on YouTube.
I don't know.
Or he's like, when a Scientologist sees an accident, they go and they help people because they know that they're the only ones that can do it.
Yeah.
Like, he's saying this stuff. He's like, nobody else is prepared to it, but Scientologists can. They can go to that accident and they can help people. And it's like, you got to see this, man. This is
I've never seen that. I've seen the one where he's like, "You're being glib," but
no. This one's great because it's basically got the soundtrack of an old Splinter Cell game playing behind Tom Cruise talking about Scientology. It's fucking amazing.
That's funny.
Oh man, I'll dig it up and I'll send you the link. It's fucking incredible.
Well, that's it's funny. That's the danger of ideology.
That perfectly fits with what you were saying. It's like he's like, you're the only person that can do it. It's like, wow, dude, you are fucking insane. You're a fucking nut. And this is what's going on with colleges now, apparently.
No, only Scientologists. The EMS doesn't know what they're doing. Scientologists are the ones.
Yeah. It's batshit. It's just total batshit.
Sometimes cults are funny, just as long as you're not being affected by one.
Yeah, not BAM or the fucking Antifa or anything, but yeah, the ones that are relatively harmless, they're pretty funny. All right, well,
I wouldn't say Scientology is harmless, but
yeah, I'm saying
I wouldn't call
relatively.
it harmless, but it's still funny when it's not actually impacting people.
Yeah.
Outside of itself.
Can I just recommend one last thing before we move on to the next topic?
Sure.
As far as trying to respond to people that are trying to sell you something, whether you actually have to pay for it or it's something like social justice, may I recommend what I always do when it comes to that? Because it's always worked for me. Whenever they're done talking and trying to sell you something, and you have the opportunity to respond with this. Say, I like what you're saying, but before we go on, I just need to ask you a really important question. Okay, if you're in a vehicle and you're traveling at the speed of light, and you turn your lights on, would they do anything? And then when they respond, however they respond, whether it's yes, no, or I don't know, you respond, okay, then I don't want what you're selling.
Okay.
I like to quote, before people accuse me of plagiarism, I just want to attribute all that to the legendary Stephen Wright.
That's perfect.
Of course, it's Stephen Wright. Those are totally the questions he asks. Those are exactly the things he would say.
If you're in a vehicle and you go on the speed of light.
Yeah.
But he'd do it like that, though.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yep. Then you toss your long flowing plaid hair and walk away.
Yeah.
If I melt dry ice, can I swim without getting wet?
What's another word for thesaurus?
What's the meaning of the word definition?
See, and I'm clearly overcomplicating things because the last evangelist that came to my door, I met her at the door. She'd been repeatedly coming back after being asked not to come back. We had a good conversation the first couple of times, and then I still didn't want to go to that church, and she kept coming back. Like, usually once is enough for them, and this one didn't understand. So I met her at the door with a 6-foot plushy dragon named Steve. And Steve did all of the talking in my imitation of Grover from Sesame Street, and she was so discombobulated, and it was perfect timing because she started started treating Steve like a person, and she was responding to Steve, but she had difficulty answering, and I said, "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" And right then, the neighbor's cat came up behind her and rubbed on the backs of her legs and scared the shit out of her.
Oh, brilliant.
She told Steve the dragon to go to hell. She was mad. But she didn't come back.
She thought you were the devil lady.
Yeah, well, she had come back. We also have a talking Mr. Bill toy, so I was prepared.
Last night, I stayed up late playing poker with tarot cards. I got a full house. And 4 people died. Max!
Yeah, man.
Max, give us the next story. Let's talk about drinking while pregnant.
Oh, God.
Yeah, okay, so fellow honey badgers, Is it a good idea to drink alcohol when you're pregnant? Now, this is an honest question, yes or no?
Of course not.
Maybe.
The blood of
Okay.
my enemies. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it's the blood of your enemies, yes. But generally, I think the answer is no, right? Good. So in theory, we shouldn't have to talk about the contents of this article, right? But since we have a show to put on, pregnancy charities and researchers are calling for a change to government guidelines which warn expectant mothers to avoid alcohol completely. Dr. Ellie Lee, director of the Center of Parenting Culture Studies at the University of Kent, said that, quote, the exclusion of women from an ordinary activity on the basis of a precaution is sexist. No, I'm not fucking joking. Despite the fact that, consistent heavy drinking during pregnancy can result in something, just a little thing called fetal alcohol syndrome. Apparently, there is no evidence that light to moderate drinking, or even the one-off night where you try every drink on the menu, will cause any damage. At the moment, it's hard to say whether or not this is coming from a biologist or, the woman who heads the center of something called Parenting and Culture Studies. The British Pregnancy Advisory Service is campaigning for a change in the quote-unquote tone of the advice given to pregnant women regarding alcohol, stating that this might be, quote, needlessly scaring women into aborting pregnancies because of fears that a few heavy nights out will have caused the fetus serious harm. Of course, trying to determine the effects of light and moderate alcohol consumption during pregnancy would be impossible because, it's unethical. Having said that, it might just be best to assume that eating and drinking healthy products might be best when you plan to bring a pregnancy to full term. After all, the thing that should be on your mind shouldn't be whether or not your feelings are hurt because you can't abstain from alcohol for 9 months, but the health and well-being of the baby. Brian? or Hannah?
When you need to get lit while you're carrying Brit.
Oh. I can't seem to call it up here, but on my computer. But there was a person I follow who had the best statement about this. Like, if you can't quit drinking for a lousy 9 months out of your entire lifetime for just a lousy 9 months, you have a problem. And you're, the least of your worries is whether or not you're being excluded from a social activity at that point. I'm sitting here thinking about this. That's probably the most relevant, the most interesting take I've seen on this, because I don't think anybody else had pointed it out. But if you're not an alcoholic, and it's one thing, like, some women don't know they're pregnant. I didn't know I was pregnant for almost 3 months. Like, my husband figured it out before that, but I didn't figure it out until I couldn't keep anything down. But and so if I had been a drinker, I would not have known to stop for the first 3 months. But even then, I wasn't a bender kind of drinker, a binge drinker, so I wouldn't have been worried. But this idea that it's needlessly scaring women into aborting pregnancies, that pisses me off. If you're going to target a piece of misinformation, the piece of misinformation that you should be targeting is, if your baby might be disabled, you should kill it. Because I think that's pretty ableist. And there are having a disability sucks in a lot of ways, but being killed obviously sucks more, and not getting a chance to live at all obviously sucks more. And it's not a mercy thing. It's not for the baby when people do this. It's for themselves and the people around them, so they don't have to feel bad about this person's situation. And it's probably because I grew up, or at least not all the way, because he didn't grow up with us all the way, but I had a classmate that had muscular dystrophy, passed away when he was 13 years old. And there are people who would advocate that he should never have been born. And not only did he squeeze every bit of life out of his 13 years, as the rest of us would squeeze out of an entire 90, but he affected the lives of all of the people around him in profound and immeasurable ways. I'm a stronger person because I knew him. I didn't have excuses for things that you usually have excuses for, because he toughed things out that I couldn't even comprehend. And I saw him do that, and then it was rather difficult to wimp out of my running when here's this kid who is in a wheelchair searching for ways to participate in gym class, who played dodgeball with us in gym class in his wheelchair. And the idea that somebody being disabled, you should kill somebody because they're going to be disabled. You know, it just, that makes me sick. It flat out makes me sick. It is so, I don't know, it's not arrogance, not the right word. It's condescending, it's preachy, it's self-aggrandizing. It's not merciful, it's not kind, it's not loving, and it's not compassionate. It's selfish. And so is the idea that a woman's feelings are more important than the safety of her baby. I was terrified when I got pregnant that I was going to fuck it up. I am a notorious, at least among my friends and family, I'm a notorious fuck up. You know, I could have been a rocket scientist, and everybody knows I could have been a rocket scientist. I could have been a doctor. I could have been a lawyer. There is not a course of study that I could have taken that I couldn't have succeeded at. And I worked at a gas station for 6 years. I worked at a pharmacy for 2 years. I worked at a bakery until 6 months before the bakery went bankrupt. The grocery store the bakery was in went bankrupt, and they started going into policy change tailspin. I've worked in retail and other shit jobs on the side of a professional photography career that never took off. And looking at that, I thought, I'm going to be responsible for a life, a person, and that person's welfare from the most vulnerable time in their existence until that person is able to take care of himself. What if I fuck that up? I mean, that was like whiplash. That turned me around so fast. It straightened me out so fast. Talk about having a sudden, dose of maturity. It's like having 1,000-pound weight dropped on you all at once, or a 10-ton brick. And it just blows my mind that anyone who ends up in that condition, I'm pregnant and not ready for it, doesn't get hit with that 10-ton brick, but instead thinks only of herself. I don't understand.
Yeah. What blows my mind is that the choice is that the people are making is that when pregnant, they are drinking and then realizing that they are endangering the child, so they get an abortion. Like, why is the abortion the choice here instead of, I don't know, not drinking? Like, one of these is a lot easier to do than the other one.
I would call having your limbs twisted off and your head crushed with forceps a little more dangerous.
Yeah.
Than even though brain damage is dangerous and bad, that's definitely more dangerous. Death is worse.
Yeah. I mean, look, guys, if you're with a woman, or if you are a woman, and you cannot fathom putting the bottle down for 9 months, you need help. Seriously. You need help. And if you're a guy, you need to get the fuck out. Exactly. The last thing you need is to be pregnant. Right? Yeah. I wonder... go ahead, Scott.
Well, I was going to say, the woman, what's her name? Ellie Lee, Dr. Ellie Lee, is saying that the exclusion of women from an ordinary activity on the basis of a precaution is sexist. Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that statement. In and of itself, it is incredibly dumb. When we know verifiably that when a woman drinks during a pregnancy, there is a chance, no matter how small it is, but there is a chance, because again, we can't test this because we'd be fucking kids up. This is not an ethical thing. This is a road we don't need to go down. But we know enough about it to say that if during your pregnancy you are drinking, there is a possibility, no matter what the degree of the possibility is, no matter what the percentile out of 100 is, there is a possibility that your child will be born with fetal alcohol syndrome. that can happen and does happen. And what she's doing is basically saying, yeah, no, fuck all that. And there's this proposition, I forget what it's called, but it's the if you take a bowl of green M&Ms, right, and you throw one in there that's a cyanide pill, not an M&M, would you still take a handful of M&Ms and eat? If there's like thousands of M&Ms in there, would you still do it, knowing that there's the potential that you would die instantly upon putting this thing in your mouth? Because, I mean, this is the same kind of proposition. It's going to... Well, okay, this isn't going to kill you. The fetal alcohol syndrome, it's not going to kill you. But the cyanide pill will kill you. And this is that same proposition. It's just they're using it as a means to push, the patriarchy, it's trying to control women, blah, blah. No, it's not. It's not trying to control anybody. It's not sexist. Mm-hmm. This is the best information we have available to us. These are the things that we know can and do happen when these things are done. So I'm flabbergasted that somebody who has a doctorate, is this an honorary doctorate, or what is this woman a doctor of? Fucking crayons?
Yeah, right.
Seriously, there's a thing, the Hippocratic Oath, it says do no harm. This is harm.
Yeah.
This is inflicting harm. There's no doubt about it. She is using a position of authority to try and push a fucking agenda that is completely fucked up and that absolutely will hurt people. Mm-hmm. It will hurt people. This is disgusting. This is a level of negligence. I mean, I've said that. I know I've said this before, but it's like I feel like this one's kind of one-upping a lot of the other negligent things that we've talked about. This is because we know what will happen. We know it can happen, and it's like even though there's a chance in say 2,000-3,000, 1 out of 2,000-3,000, if we can avoid that chance of fucking that kid's life up potentially, why wouldn't you? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this person?
Is this real life, right? I mean,
seriously,
it's like the narcissism that you would have to be like, well, I may be pregnant, but I want to party. So how do I justify that? Well, you could say it's sexist. Oh yeah, that's it. I'll say that this victimizes me somehow.
But even more than that, to be so narcissistic that you know the science is there. Right. You know the science is there, and yet you're going to push a fucking feminist, sexist bullshit agenda about it?
Yeah, well, but feminists...
What's wrong with this person?
But wait a minute, though. Feminists do also say that the fetus is just a clump of cells. So maybe by their logic, even though the obviously the science is out on on that, or at least it's still a debate, they might make the argument that until the baby is born, fuck him, do what you want, your body, your choice. And that could be where that comes from. I don't know, but that could be where that comes from. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that even like pro-choice advocates wouldn't necessarily agree with that. So I'm not making an argument against that or whatever. I'm thinking about the kind of place you'd have to be mentally to say, I want to go out and party and drink. I know I'm pregnant, but I don't care. It's like and how do I justify that? And the thing is, this is the worst part, Scott. And I know Hannah's trying to get in here. I've seen people, and I know people in real life who were pregnant, and they did that. They would go drink, they would smoke, they would go party, they would fuck strangers. They would just live as though they were not pregnant. They would just go and do shit, and they were morons, and morons. And the thing is, if it turned out to be a miscarriage or something, it's like, oh, well, that's terrible. I guess I'll just go get knocked up again, and I'll just try again. It's like part of it's like, how people try to have a baby, like sincerely, and they're like, oh, we're trying to have a baby, so we're just going to keep fucking until she gets pregnant. And then when she does, we're going to, wrap our entire lifestyle around preparing for that baby to come into the world, because this is what we wanted to do. This is what we planned. This is like, it's like trying to have a baby, but you're just doing whatever the fuck you want. And if there's a baby that survives all of your awful choices, then it's like this sort of Darwinian super baby in your mind. Like, yes, I'm going to give birth to this cycloptic hunchback that I poisoned with all of my life choices, and he should be fine now. Right. So anyway, Hannah, it's yours.
Well, I want to point out two things. First of all, I just want to remind everybody that the reason there are safe haven abandonment laws is because if there were not safe haven abandonment laws, There are a number of women out there, particularly younger women, who, upon giving birth, would dump their babies in the trash or in a toilet, abandon them to die, and go out and continue partying. That is a sad fact of life. That's one thing. The other thing is, just based on a quick Google search, the annual number of abortions reported to the CDC in the US from 2009, it's 789,217. 2010, 765,651. 2011, 730,322. 2012, 699,202. So they're going down, which I think is a good thing. But the fact is, there are hundreds of thousands of women in the United States who terminate their pregnancies every year. And I mean, this is not to say that every single one of them is doing it for birth control, but statistically, 98% or so are. They're not doing it because of the health of the mother. They're not doing it because of the health of the fetus. They're not doing it because they were raped. They're doing it because they got pregnant and didn't want to give birth. So you have a significant number of women who don't care about their fetus, who believe it's not a living human organism, and who do not really care what happens to it. And they're actually willing to treat it like it's disposable. And it's not so much that this should be shocking or surprising. I still don't understand it. I don't understand any of that. I don't understand how a person can do any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what we're dealing with. So this idea of not telling women, not campaigning for women to just cut out alcohol for the time that they know they're pregnant, and to do their best for it's not like the teach men not to rape campaigns where you're preaching to the choir and shaming the choir as if they don't believe what you're preaching. It's pretty common for women to abuse their unborn babies in some way or another, sadly. And this is relevant. And the sad thing is, this doctoral, this woman with a doctorate, right, is talking as though we know it's safe to have a couple of drinks, or we know it's safe to have one binge night. We don't. The article itself said we don't know a safe level of alcohol. We don't know where the line is. So we don't know at what point in consumption we might be crossing it. That is sufficient sufficient reason to not approach it at all. But you can't tell women what to do, right? It's sexist.
Exactly right. Can't have standards for them. That's sexist. They have to be free to act like children if they want to.
But by golly, if they go give birth and choose to retain custody under all of the choices they have to not do so, it's the guy's fault and he owes them money.
Yeah. And this is the thing, like, when women are not acting childish, there's no need for us to point out that that's being supported, because in general people don't have a problem with it. But when you are basically creating a culture which encourages it and celebrates it, then you're going to get more of it. When you subsidize bad behavior, don't be surprised if you get more bad behavior. So, all right. So I guess if there's nothing else, I'm going to move on to the next story. All right, I'll take that as a yes. But before I do, I want to do another Stephen Wright, because I think that's what I'm going to be doing today to make myself feel better. So, for my birthday, I got a humidifier and a dehumidifier. I put them in the same room and I let them fight it out. Okay, so next story is...
Oh, Stephen Wright.
I love him.
Oh, you.
A paper was published in a peer-reviewed social science journal as a hoax to prove gender studies is mostly garbage. The paper, entitled "The Conceptual Penis as a Social Construct," was published in Cogent Social Sciences this May. The authors, Peter Bogeson, I guess, and James Lindsay, say that they were careful to make sure that the paper didn't say anything meaningful and set out to publish it with the suspicion that gender studies is crippled academically by an overriding almost religious belief, not almost religious, come on now, that maleness is the root of all evil. Here is an excerpt from the paper. Many cisgendered hypermasculine males, for instance, seem to identify those aspects of their masculinity upon which they most obviously depend with the notion that they carry their penis as a symbol of male power, domination, control, capability, desirability, and aggression. According to the National Coalition for Men, which compiled a list of synonyms for the word penis, these include the terms beaver basher, cranny axe, custard launcher, dagger, heat-seeking moisture missile, mayo-shooting hot dog gun, pork sword, and yogurt shotgun.
Bishop with the nice red hat.
Were they just like reading off the lyrics of pet names for genitalia?
Wait. Yeah, well, sort of, yeah. There's so many more, though. But based on... this is still from the excerpt from the paper. Based on an appreciable corpus of feminist literature on the penis, this troubling identification results in an effective isomorphism linking the conceptual penis with toxic hypermasculinity. The paper goes on and even includes a part about climate change. Here is a gem. Quote, climate change is genuinely an example of hyper-patriarchal society metaphorically man-spreading into the global ecosystem.
Okay, Bill Nye.
Wow.
While this is comparable to the Sokol hoax paper that demonstrated that postmodernism is a bunch of gobbledygook, the authors specifically tested their hypothesis that flattery of the academic left's morality is the main determiner of publication in an academic journal in that field. They succeeded. However, it's important to note that their paper was turned down by their target journal, Norma, the International Journal of Men's Studies, and Cogent, the one that ultimately published the hoax, is a pay-to-publish journal. Reason Magazine points out that this may be better suited as a critique of pay-to-publish journals, while reminding everyone the evidence of problems in gender studies are obvious already, with real papers titled Women's Studies as Virus, Institutional Feminism and the Projection of Danger, and Glaciers, Gender, and Science, a feminist glaciology framework for global environmental climate change.
The last one is my favorite. I love the work they did on that paper. It's so good. I mean, when you really sit down and think about the connection between glaciers and gender and science, oh God, it's.
I mean, I can relate to the the relationship between glaciers and feminists. But,
yeah, they obviously had to publish that one because it was written by the Ice Queen, and nobody wants to admit to rejecting her work.
They are slow-moving, cold, and enormous.
Yes.
And just like penises, icebergs have tips as well.
Well,
and this is just the tip of the iceberg.
I thought this was pretty funny. I would even call it dank. I would go so far as to say that.
Say it, man. This is like, I was really angry about the last thing where we were talking about the doctor, and now I'm just kind of like, I had this the most placid feeling. I had this wave of just dumb wash over me, and I feel like I'm bathing in warm, sticky something. I don't even know. I feel like I'm covered in it, and I'm just.
I hear you.
The ignorance, the feeling of ignorance. It's amazing. I understand why people live here so long.
This is what
you thinking of our trip. You thinking of our trip to Amsterdam too, Scott?
Well,
this is what male tears feels like.
That's it. There you go.
I'm waiting for somebody to submit Doug Zonker's chicken report to a publication and have it just get rubber stamped through. Retitle it, like redo the chicken report with some social justice term or another, and title it some social justice title. And the only difference is maybe the title has more than one word to it, and it would go through. And I'm betting you somewhere there's a feminist publication that is considered some level of prestigious beyond, nobody reads this because it's shit. that would publish it without looking at it.
Hey, everyday feminism's looking for fucking. Looking for
There we
stuff.
go. There we go. And for anybody that doesn't know, Doug Zonger's chicken. It's hard to pronounce this. Zongker. So I don't know if it's Zonger or Zonker. But the chicken report. If you look up the meta picture, all one word, and chicken report, and you'll get a good laugh.
Okay.
This is the kind of thing. And it was
read,
basically made to make fun of this kind of thing, I think.
Yeah. I want to read a little bit more from this academic paper. Because these guys set out to try, to essentially the point they wanted to make, for those of you guys who may have missed it in the write-up, was they were showing that if you simply appeal to the already previously held beliefs of the feminist left in college academia, you can get any paper past them, provided that you don't make it look too much like a Poe. And you just fill it with a bunch of postmodern bullshit. And so here's another excerpt. This is not going to make a lot of sense, but this is how it got past the fucking, I guess you could call them gatekeepers of academia, of intelligentsia. Okay. Destructive, unsustainable, hegemonically male approaches to pressing environmental policy and action are the predictable results of a raping of nature by a male-dominated mindset. This mindset is best captured by recognizing the role of the conceptual penis, which it holds over masculine psychology. When it is applied to our natural environment, especially virgin environments that can be cheaply despoiled for their material resources and left dilapidated and diminished when our patriarchal approaches to economic gain have stolen their inherent worth, the extrapolation of the rape culture inherent in the conceptual penis becomes clear. At best, climate change is genuinely an example of hyper-patriarchal society, metaphorically manspreading into the global ecosystem. It's the rape of Mother Nature itself.
It almost sounds like a rape fantasy.
It sounds like, and it's actually
like Chuck Tingle fanfic is what it sounds
It
like.
sounds like something
Christ.
somebody would put in one of those books that has the cover, the chick on the cover with the ripped bodice, and the guy with the long flowing hair.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, Hannah. You're not really wrong.
They accidentally left out a couple of good words for penis that I feel should have been in there, such as meat thermometer and albino cave dweller, ding dong McDork, the dipstick, dude piston, easy rider, middle stump.
Middle stump.
Solid
Wow.
snake.
Maybe we can make a Metal Gear out of penises.
You just made my day.
You just made my day.
All right.
Don't forget the beef bridge that crosses the seven seas.
The big Montana. Oh,
I don't know. If you cross 7 seas, you better get tested for something.
right.
Kroll
Since
the
one out
Warrior
of 6
King.
people
Chlamydia,
has-
crotch
has-
rot. What are the other ones? I don't know.
Oh shit. The hose. All right, but anyway, that's the end of that story. I don't know if there's anything anybody else wants to say. I'm just glad that they're bringing some robust feminist arguments to add on to the already existing robust feminist arguments.
Yeah, I there's actually just one thing that I wanted to add to this. Cobra Commander. That's it.
That's
I
good.
don't know. I was always kind of partial to Destro myself, but make love like you wanna.
Sex junk.
I now have this song running through my head. That names for genitalia. The girls think of them, and you gotta love them. Just get rid of it now.
That's good.
Like
All right.
STD. But
There you go.
like herpes.
Just remember, there's always something silly about Little Willie.
Some people in the chat are giving us other ones. The Cunt Crusher,
Oh, I don't know.
hydraulic sausage, mustard tip, Willie the One-Eyed Wonder Worm, Swizzle stick. Sir John Thomas.
Yep, some of those are in the song.
Oh, you know what my favorite one is?
Flesh gear.
My,
Go ahead.
fucking, I forgot what it's. Oh, Charles Dickens.
And God.
Charles Dickens. Oh God.
Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next story. Scott, will you tell us about Pamela Anderson?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Former model actress, active member of PETA, and source of roughly 75% of boners produced in the 90s, Pamela Anderson has declared herself an anti-feminist. In a recent interview for the new Baywatch movie, Anderson stated, "Men get weaker in an authoritarian environment. They don't need to be as manly. And women are working. Who's watching the kids? I may get some heat for this, but I consider myself an anti-feminist." Anderson continued stating her concerns over humans as a species becoming too androgynous and adding that men shouldn't drink from plastic bottles as the plastic contains estrogen. Anderson also expressed joy over the dropping of rape charges against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, whom she considers a hero and has visited several times.
All right. It's not really a big story because, I mean, like, I don't really give a shit too much about what celebrities think. But but there is one thing. My takeaway from this was that Pamela Anderson used the term anti-feminist, and I had never heard that used by Hollywood celebrities before. So,
Oh, you don't remember Shailene Woodley coming out and saying that?
I don't remember hearing anyone say anti-feminist. I've heard many
Oh,
people
no, she
say
did.
I'm not a feminist or whatever, but I've never heard anyone say they were an anti-feminist specifically.
I'm pretty sure Shailene Woodley actually gave an affirmative foot down on it and was just like, "Yep." And she got a whole ream of shit about it.
Oh yeah, I bet she did.
she
But
got
I
a
didn't
whole
know
ream of shit
who's
about
who.
it.
Wait, who's Shailene
She's
Woodley?
the one from the Hunger Games ripoff. What's it called? Well, not ripoff.
Oh,
it's the,
Divergent.
yeah,
Or
that's
whatever
the
it
one.
is. Those
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
A young adult
Yep.
novel, C grade young adult novel series made
Yes,
into movies.
there you go. Them's the ones.
Oh well, there you go. I mean, I guess my thing is, it seems like it's that term is being used. It's basically going into like more common usage, and it's when I see it in like on on the being used by celebrities, it makes me think, Pamela Anderson. I don't give a fuck about her. I mean, she's clearly a traditionalist more than anything else. Then you can tell that by when she says, "Who's watching the kids?" That already tells me, okay, do you not think that guys can watch kids? That like that's like my first thought. So she's clearly coming from a more traditionalist angle. And
Although she did mention both parties in the same statement, so it might be that she doesn't think men can't watch kids. Just that if both people are
working, then no one's doing
working,
it.
then no one's watching the kids.
Or they're being raised by daycare and nannies and shit like that.
I was gonna say, in the circles she travels in, it's probably nannies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the thing about plastic bottles. I don't know if there's any veracity.
Well, there's a
That's the BPH
study
thing.
that's
She's
been
this-
reported in various environmental. Well, actually, USA Today has it. Holy shit! In their environmental news still, but it does indicate that there's. Yeah, it says about 70% of the plastic items tested positive for estrogenic activity, but that number jumped to 95% when they were subjected to real-world conditions such as don't microwave anything like that anyway. Microwaving and dishwashing, you shouldn't put stuff like that in the dishwasher because it wasn't made for it. According to the study published this month in the peer-reviewed journal Environmental Health Perspectives. Well, we just discovered that, or just proved again that peer review doesn't necessarily take the place of other practices, and in any case, there's actually one of the co-authors.
Are they saying there's actually estrogen in it, or are they referring to the BPH additive in the plastic that raises levels of estrogen in men?
Although bisphenol A is the most notorious chemical with estrogenic activity used in plastics, it is not the only one, nor does it have the highest biological effect. The co-author of the study is a neurobiologist at the University of Texas, Austin, and he says almost all commercially available plastics that they sampled, independent of the type of resin or product or retail source, leached chemicals having a reliably detectable estrogenic activity, including those advertised as BPA free. So it's obvious that, like, it looks like if you're constantly reusing, like, plastic bottles are made to be disposable, which means they're not necessarily made to refrain from breaking down. And if you expose them to microwaves and heat them up, or you expose them to the dishwasher, which, you know, you can have things melt in the dishwasher from the heat in there, it might not be as healthy as the first time you drink out of it after you purchase it. And that's definitely ill-advised, but I wouldn't panic if you've been drinking out of plastic bottles that you buy at the store and then you throw them away. You know, personally, I think we're going to get to a point, because of the number of people in the world and the amount of plastic trash that we produce, where we're going to have to come up with something else. But aside from that, I wouldn't. You know, personally, I'm not going to panic, and I wouldn't panic for the men in my house either, just over the plastic itself. I think the environmental issue is probably more pressing, and unless, you know, you're running around and the only thing you ever drink out of is plastic water bottles, and then you might have some concerns.
So
I suppose is like the difference between people that say never go out in the sun and the people that say use sunscreen to avoid sunburn. It's wise to use sunscreen to avoid sunburn, but don't never go out in the sun, because you actually need sunlight.
no, the sun is a giant death ray.
Well, technically, depending on your standpoint of viewing it, it can be.
Yeah.
I wonder if out there in a pond somewhere there's a little Alex Jones frog going, don't use plastic bottles, they turn the humans gay.
It's perfect. But
Max, was there anything you wanted to say about this topic?
What?
Max
Sorry.
checked out.
No, sorry. It's just you guys were talking about Pam Anderson, which made me think of Baywatch, which made me think of the new movie, and now, you know, I'm just looking at naked pictures of Alexandra Daddario. Don't mind me.
What?
there you go.
Who?
So
Alexander something. Or is
Alexandra Daddario. She's in
Who's
the.
this
in
guy?
the
Oh,
Baywatch movie.
he's like, who is this guy? Alexandra, apparently. I heard Max say Alexander, so, and you know
Okay.
what? Not that there's
Scott?
anything wrong with that.
In this modern environment, that just because a name has a gender to it doesn't mean that it was given to somebody of that
This
sex.
is true.
Stop trying to project your
Yeah.
homosexual tendencies onto me. Okay, it's getting
Look, it's only 18% of the time, Max. I'm just saying. All right.
dude. 2 times that happened.
Well, that's 18%. I mean, I'm consistent. I'm not. If nothing else, I am consistent. I'm just saying.
Okay. So, yeah, so Pamela Anderson. So I looked at her. I mean, what she basically says is that men and women have different roles to play, and she's worried that men's role is being diminished. I guess that is something that a lot of people do have concerns about. The only thing is, though, she's like a PETA supporter, which is kind of crazy. How do you do that? But I don't know. I just thought at the end of the day that it was interesting that she used the terminology, and she was in support of Julian Assange, who was falsely accused of rape during the election. I think it was like one of the things they were trying to do to slander him. And she had met with Julian Assange multiple times. And by the way, they recently dropped the charges. Interesting.
That's so weird.
I
And it only
know.
took
Yep.
7 years. Oh.
That's crazy. Well,
It almost looks like they dropped the charges to get out of the way so the U.S. could extradite him.
yeah.
It's actually, on one hand, it's great that the charges are dropped. On the other hand, he's still stuck there because of the U.S. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And as far as the Pam Anderson thing goes, she, her ideas, some of them are ideas that I can agree with, and some of them are ideas that are like, okay, you just went way off into left field. She's not dumb. When you hear her talk about the details of her beliefs, she's not dumb. She just has a different way of looking at things than, say, I do. And it's not necessarily... I'm not going to say it's not irrational to go off on some of those tangents, but it's not necessarily evidence of lack of intelligence. This is what happens when you combine the degree to which it's tolerated that women prioritize emotion over rational thought with somebody who is intelligent enough to look at the information being given and sort through it, but then they're sort of stuck in that rut of reacting to it emotionally before they react to it intellectually. And that's not to say that everything that she says is invalid because of that. Like, sometimes she's going to be right and sometimes she's going to be wrong. But the interesting thing about this is going to be the reaction to her that we see from feminists. Are they going to slut shame her because she's Pam Anderson, and she's an easy target for that? Are they going to call her a bimbo because she's a blonde and she has big boobs? You know, are they going to start making fun of her more out there beliefs and try to associate when she is right about something or when she is close to the mark about something with her more out there beliefs because they can't really criticize where she is on the mark? Because that's what I seem to see with feminists. Are they going to try to bully her into becoming a feminist? Because I don't think that's going to work. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see what the response is from feminists to her saying she's an anti-feminist more than anything.
So Joey Jojo dropped us $2, and he said, "Here's $2. Put a better-looking woman on, please." So I changed it. I changed the image from Pamela Anderson to Kat Dennings for a bit because I know that he loves her. So
I'm a beautiful woman. You can put an image of me up there.
This isn't you. I put Kat Dennings up. That's not who you are. You don't identify as Kat Dennings.
I mean, I have very large man boobs, but you know.
Well, he responded
really
with 7
hairy.
hearts, so I think that works.
Yeah, that'll work.
You know, here's the thing though about this is Pam Anderson even, does she have any relevance? I mean,
not a lot. I mean, she's been like she's sort of like,
what I'm saying.
She's sort of like, well, that's what I'm saying. Look, okay, as a Hollywood celebrity, no, but there's also, she's not getting any work anymore. But there is something about that I think is worth pointing out. If you walk off the ranch at Hollywood in terms of your beliefs, unless you have a shit ton of clout already, you won't become relevant because they will do their best to basically remove you. Like you will
Well, I
won't
think
get
now it's a
work
little
anymore.
bit harder now.
Well,
I think
there's
now it's a
also
little bit harder because the studio system doesn't have the power that it used to have as far as like being able to get a message out there because of social media. That's kind of hamstrung them to a bit. But
there's also the thing that she took time off after she had her kids. And
Right.
That makes a difference too.
Yeah. And
When
the
like
point,
a lot of Hollywood beauties will age slowly on camera. If you age off camera and then you try to come back, it's a different ballgame.
right. Well, the point is though, it's like I don't think that feminists are probably going to go after her just because she doesn't really have any relevance.
No, but she's not useful to them. That's the thing. Like
it's not a big enough target.
No.
Basically.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
Dude, they go after me and I'm nobody. They'll go after any woman who
but
makes a
you're
public
ground
statement,
level, and
and she
you're
has a
more
public.
dangerous, though.
Well, okay, so I've had somebody refer to me as heels on the ground the other day. I thought that was hilarious. No, she still has a very public voice, even though she's not like top tier popularity level. She still has a very public voice, and it's public enough that people like us are talking about what she said. That's going to make her a target.
I mean, I guess I don't know. I just don't see that there's a win in this for them, really. I mean,
to go after Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, it made sense when they went after Shailene Woodley because she's like a really young, up and coming starlet, as it were, whatever you want to call it, actor.
Oh no, they'll go after her, all right. Just not
yeah.
from the same angle. Not you must be one of us or else, but this is what we're going to compare you to if you say you're an anti-feminist.
Well,
you're just an anti-feminist because Pam Anderson said she's one.
Well, that's what they did with Kelly Cuoco from Big Bang Theory, the blonde-haired girl.
Yep.
They went after her, and she kind of like walked it back a little bit.
Right. And the thing is, Kaylee Cuoco didn't even say, I'm an anti-feminist or I don't like feminists. She just said, well, I don't see myself as one of those. Like, I think what's her name did the same thing. Kirsten Dunst. Kirsten Dunst did the same thing. And she also
Yeah,
had
she
to
said,
walk
"I'm not
it
a
back.
feminist."
Yeah, she also
And that
had to
was-
walk
yeah.
it back a little bit because they like flipped out. But the thing is, I think this, and I don't think you're wrong, Scott. And I think Hannah's also right. Basically, this is like, it's not that they wouldn't criticize Pamela Anderson openly in some way. I don't really care about that. To me, that's just drama. But she will be used by them in some way, but they're not going to freak out the same way they did for Shailene Woodley, because Shailene Woodley is someone who, in their mind, has actual influence, has actual, because, you know, like, they look at famous
Because she's appealing
people.
to younger girls.
Exactly.
that's
She can have an effect on younger girls. With Pam Anderson, they could dismiss her and say, well, she was a bimbo from the 90s. She's a has-been. She's not relevant. And that's why she doesn't support feminism. And so anyone who
that's kinda
doesn't
what I was
support
getting at.
feminism, they're going to basically be compared to her, which is what Hannah was saying too. And
Right.
the thing is we all know what feminists are going to use in terms of their tactics, but ultimately that stuff's not working as well anymore, because I've been noticing other people who don't get work anymore, like Pamela Anderson doesn't get work anymore. Actually, she doesn't even want it. She seems to be, once she had her kids, she was like, I'm not acting anymore. And I bet in her mind, she knew she was, her time as a celebrity, as an actress, was directly tied to her looks and not necessarily her acting ability. So no, she had to know that, though. I mean,
I know.
So she probably was like, okay, I'm gonna wear this out for as long as I can, and then I'm gonna settle down, and that's what she did. So I mean, like, she
And to
doesn't have
compare it to something else
illusions,
just real
right?
quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to compare it to something else real quick, she doesn't. This isn't exactly the same kind of thing, but if you look at Notch is like, you know, the guy that made Minecraft.
Yeah.
He's got fuck you money. He's got so much money. It's just like, fuck you, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. you
Sure.
know? And he fucking talks very freely online, you know, like on Twitter a lot. And this is kind of like, I feel like she's not in the same position where she's like a billionaire, you know, at least not to my knowledge anyway, but she's in a position where she's not accountable to a studio or to anybody else. And she's, like you said, she's not really acting anymore. So she's like, fuck it. I'm just gonna, you know, this is who I am. If you don't like it, well, you know, fuck you. You know, too bad for you, sour grapes. So I think I personally, I adore this when people are like this, when people have established themselves and have done the work and, you know, and got the credit they deserved or whatever, you know, and they're just like, you know what, I'm throwing off any airs, any pretense, any bullshit, and this is just how it is. And if you don't like it, well, that sucks to be you. So I mean, I applaud her for taking these, you know, very affirmative stances on things and not speaking in language that is ambiguous.
Right.
Or leaves any
That's what I'm saying.
She's
Be
like,
direct.
I'm an
And-
anti-feminist.
And I think that thanks to social media, there's actually other celebrities that are doing. Have you seen, like, for example, I mean, like, whether you agree with them or not, I have to admire what, like, you know, James Woods or Jenna Jameson. They're you know, they're fucking aggressive. And you know what? I'm like, you're speaking your mind. You're not towing the line. And I know that these are unpopular opinions. And they're not crazy, like, hateful, from what I can tell. James Woods just gives it to the fucking snowflakes, though. But I don't follow his Twitter that closely, so I don't really know. But I mean,
sometimes Woods is a little bit out there.
well, he might be. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I like him, and again, same here. I appreciate the fact that people are like that have a lot to potentially lose in the public eye because of the work that they're in. That they're like, you know, even if it's a stance I don't agree with, it's like, cool, man, fucking put it out there, fucking be real, you know?
Exactly.
Once it's nice to see people doing that.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I'm usually the first one to say I don't give a fuck what a celebrity says, because they're often like mouthpieces for, you know, fucking lobbyists and corporations and other sort of special interest groups most of the time, especially when they get really preachy. But when somebody is just
Sinise.
yeah.
That motherfucker's preachy as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Gary Sinise,
but you know, if you're, you know, like, I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. So, but for more than anything, I'm just like glad to see that this use of the term anti-feminist is moving into mainstream in a way that is you know, getting people's attention. I mean, you know, Pam Anderson isn't the celebrity she was, but it's still a household name. People do know who that is still, you know. So, all right. Well, Max, yes.
Just one very, very quick thing before we move on. I just wanted to say, like, in response to what Hannah was saying before about addressing Pamela Anderson, if you want to go after her, just let me recommend one thing. You can call her bimbo, you can call her misogynist, you can call her slut, but whatever you do, don't call her babe. Brian gets the reference. Okay.
All right. All right, so before we move on to the next story, which I will also let Scott do, I'm going to do another Stephen Wright. So...
Oh my.
Right now, I'm having amnesia and deja vu at the same time. I think I've forgotten this before. All right, Scott.
Oh my. Chris Cornell, frontman for bands such as Soundgarden and Audioslave, was found dead May 18th in his MGM Grand hotel room after playing a show the previous day. Cause of death was determined to be suicide by hanging, although Vicky Karayanis, Cornell's wife, maintains that his suicide was the result of Cornell increasing the dosage of his anti-anxiety medication. Cornell had a long-standing history of mental health issues and multiple addictions, but appeared to have both under control after completing rehab in 2002. Cornell's death has reopened important discussions concerning men's mental health and male suicide. According to the Centers for Disease Control, white males between the ages of 45 and 65 make up the bulk of all suicides, with men in general representing over 75% of suicides nationwide. Julie Serrell, president of the American Association of Suicidology, wow, that's a thing, huh? Suicidology, and a professor at the University of Kentucky School of Social Work, states the subject of male suicide that men notoriously don't seek help, and as people are aging and at the place in their lives where the world isn't looking the way they want, men especially don't know how to reach out and get help or express the way they're feeling pain. Serrell adds that even once men do decide to seek help, medical professionals aren't always trained to look for signs of mental illness and suicidality. Currently, only 3 states in the U.S. require practitioners of mental health to be trained in spotting suicidality.
All right.
And I just have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Spoon Man! I'm together with your hand. Save me!
I'm together with your plan, saving me.
Oh man, you know it's always a bummer when like somebody who has affected people and impacted people's lives in the way that Cornell and other artists have, you know, get to the point where they end their own lives. It sucks, man. It really sucks. I mean, especially obviously, you know, his family is probably going through hell right now. But yeah, it's just they're interesting voices that do or have done interesting things. When they go away, I think we're all kind of worse off for it, honestly. You know, like when Robin Williams died, Robin Williams is a pretty awesome fucking actor.
Oh shit,
know?
dude, he was so good.
Yeah, and I mean, and aside from that, he did a lot of stuff not related to acting to help people, like charity work and all sorts of things. And he was very active in that sort of thing because, you know, he had his demons, and one of the ways that he dealt with them was to do charity work. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
He was very depressed.
Yeah.
It's really one of the really.
And I relate to it too because I've been in that spot myself. So it's just like it kind of hits close, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the really frustrating things about the narrative about men not seeking help is that most of the ideologues, most of the like political ideologues that are out there saying that the suicide trend among men is so high because men don't seek help, men don't talk about their issues and their problems and everything, are the same ones who shame men for their reactions to their lived experiences. You know, like they'll tell you that they want to listen. They'll tell you they want men to talk about their problems. But the minute that a man's emotional pain is connected to something that conflicts with women's interests or with what feminists call women's interests, he's suicidal because he's been completely cut out of his children's lives. He's going through hell because he can't make enough money, physically can't make enough money at his level of capacity, at his level of employability to fill the judge's order for his financial obligation to his ex-wife, you know, or his family situation has put him in a position of feeling like he no longer has a purpose in life and he's now useless. These are things that happen to men, that the minute a man starts talking about this experience, instead of somebody saying, okay, well, what can we do to help this man with this problem? And if it's something where he could be reunited with his kids, or he actually does have, because it happens quite a bit, an undue burden pressed on him to support his ex-wife, or his whole life has changed and he's in a position where he can't see a path to a new avenue of self-fulfillment, and he thinks he has no purpose because the thing that he knew best has been taken away from him. His factory has closed, or his business has closed, or the area that he went into in school has evolved from being something that people do to something that machines do. And instead of helping the man deal with that situation and looking for an avenue out of his suicidal tendency at that point, he gets treated like, shame on you for having feelings about this. Shame on you for thinking of yourself at all in this situation. What's wrong with you? Don't you care about the people around you? It doesn't help. It's not, and if it was a woman in that situation, they wouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating as hell to hear these people say there's not enough resources and there's not enough people listening to men, when they're the reason that there aren't enough. The stigma that they place on men who have any self-interest at all, on male self-interest at all, is part of the problem, and it's a significant part of the problem. And we end up in this cycle, where the problem is perpetuated by lack of resources to support those who experience it. And the resources are scarce due to insufficient consideration for those who experience the problem. And that insufficient consideration is due to a combination of the stigma and the lack of men coming forward to seek help for their experiences. And of course, men aren't going to come forward to seek help for their experiences if they know that stigma exists and there's a lack of resources for them, even if they get past it. So it becomes a self-perpetuating cycle of dysfunction in our society. And I honestly think a lot of it hinges on removing the stigma that gets dumped on men for the crime of having any self-interest at all.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say something to it, but then you covered it, so I don't... I was just...
Can I share an anecdote?
Yeah.
I remember when I was dating somebody one time, and she was like, Scott, I want you to feel like you can tell me anything. You can, if you're feeling down about stuff, if you want to talk about it, just let me know. It's just like, oh, that's great. I want you to share your feelings with me and all this sort of thing, right? And I remember one very specific instance where I tried doing that, and I was pretty emotionally kind of fragile at the moment because I think it was I can't remember exactly what was going on, but I was at the point where I was in tears though, and I was trying to express it, and she was like, I don't have time for this, and she fucking left. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? What happened to this, open arms, understanding person, and you want me to do this, and now all of a sudden you're fucking over it? I'm like, what's going on there? Mixed messages, fucking pick a fucking side of the fence already, huh? And it's like, I feel like the same kind of thing. It's like, oh, we really need to do this kind of stuff, and then when it comes time and you call them out, and you're like, okay, yeah, let's do it now. And then no, I don't have time for it. I think all too often, like, things like this are just treated to lip service. It's just people saying, oh yeah, we totally care about men, we totally care about helping people out and making sure they get the help that they need. But when it comes down to it, like when I was living in Atlanta and I was trying to get physical help because I was sick, trying to get medical treatment, and they didn't have it, and the woman told me, it's like, oh no, we shut down all the men's clinics and we've diverted all the funds to female clinics and children's clinics because it's just not important to keep the men's clinics open. It's like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck world are we living in right now? That this is acceptable? That this is the norm? It's just how things are. So yeah, there's my little story for what it's worth.
Can I just say one thing in respect to Chris Cornell, the individual?
Yeah.
Guys, for those of you who aren't familiar with Soundgarden or Audioslave or his work as a solo musician, I think it might be a bit enlightening to all of you just to go and look up some of his music and just see how unique of an artist Chris Cornell was and how powerful of a vocalist he was. For example, even though you might not really be into grunge rock or metal or stuff like that, I highly recommend you just check out a snippet of one of his songs called Jesus Christ Pose. If you want a perfect example of just what this guy could do with his voice, you'll understand that there are very, very few people that have ever lived that are able to project with such power like he could. And as a musician myself, I've gotten a lot of inspiration, in terms of me playing guitar, writing my own songs, singing from Chris Cornell. This is how good he was, okay? When Soundgarden came out with their album Bad Motorfinger back in 1992, a little while after that, Johnny Cash, when he was still alive, he covered their song Rusty Cage. And the one thing that a lot of people were saying about that song when Johnny Cash covered it was, wow, I can't believe that you wrote a song like this. The lyrics are just so magnificently constructed. And I remember Chris Cornell was told about that in an interview a little while after that. And he was like, yeah, well, it was kind of cool when I wrote them in the first place.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, dude! And you know what? Another thing that can't be looked past when you're talking about Cornell and Soundgarden, they were one of the bands that started a new musical movement.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Cornell, Soundgarden was like, I remember like back in like post-hardcore basically is when Soundgarden kind of came about, like along with like Pearl Jam, like what's his nuts, Eddie Vedder came out of the hardcore scene, out of the fucking the straight edge hardcore scene. And when Soundgarden came out, I remember like, because I was big into music back then, and that was a paradigm shift. That was a paradigm shift that eventually was felt over the entire planet. So it's most people don't know who Cornell was, and that's kind of sad because like the music, like you said, Max, it's like it reached Johnny Cash of all people, and it is monumentally important in the larger scheme of our musical history. I mean, it was a pretty big deal. Big deal.
Just to add on top of what you were saying, a part of a big musical movement, obviously, is talking about the grunge movement in the early 90s. If you want to do more musical research into bands that were heavily influential at that time, Soundgarden, they were a part of what a lot of people considered to be the big four. Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, and Nirvana. All of them influenced a whole bunch of people, so go check out those four bands, and especially the unique voices behind all those bands.
Yeah.
Hell, and if you're gonna do that, check out a band like Screaming Trees also.
That's totally.
It'll connect you to other stuff from the 90s. That was a big decade of music. But to back to Hannah's point, I don't know that Chris Cornell could have been saved if we lived in a society that was more compassionate towards men, to the point where if they're having trouble, they actually can feel comfortable to look for help, because there is this narrative that men not seeking help when they're in trouble is the fault of men, and specifically men like them, whereas it's in reality that's not as simple as that, and they need compassion. We need to have compassion for men, especially men that are just men in general, but for the sake of men that are struggling with multiple issues and don't feel as though they can come forward and seek help. So yeah, I mean, I think men seeking help is a problem. I've talked to Tom Golden and Paul Elam about this, Warren Farrell, but it's not just the fault of men or other men. It's everyone's problem. We all have to make them feel comfortable. We have to be involved with them. We have to understand how they express their pain and how they look for healing, and we have to welcome those things. So just to Just want to throw that out there. I don't know if it would have done anything for Chris. It looks like he was just dealing with severe anxiety issues. Perhaps I think perhaps there could have been, something that could have done if we had a different kind of world that we lived in. And ironically, I just want to throw this out there because I just find this really strange. You guys all know that Roger Moore passed away today. And he was the first, I think he's the first Bond to kick the bucket, unless David Niven died and nobody noticed, which is possible. And I don't mean to say that to be cruel, I'm just,
Damn shade.
But, however, or the other, is it David Niven? There's the other Bond, the one who only did one movie. But
Lazenby.
yes, John Lazenby, thank you. So, well, the thing that it's interesting about that is
George Lazenby.
George, you're right.
Sorry.
Shit, I'm gonna get the shit slapped out of me in the comments section. Anyway, it's interesting that about the Bond thing because Chris Cornell did a song for a Bond movie, and it's actually my favorite. It's my favorite Bond song, the best one, in my opinion. Better than Goldfinger, but I liked GoldenEye and
Better than View to a Kill.
Oh yeah,
By Duran Duran.
Come on now,
come on, man, come on, dude. Oh, we those fighting words, boy. Those fighting words.
View to a Kill is okay, but
what?
But like
You
know my name is the best one. Guys, in the comments section, tell me what is your favorite James Bond title song, and it has to be You Know My Name because it's the best one. Although the one by Garbage was good too. Do you remember that one? It was I think it's The World Is Not Enough.
World's Not Enough, yeah.
Yeah, by Garbage. Although
there's actually quite a few good theme songs.
There are.
Within the last 20 years, they've because I think Duran Duran. I don't know if they were I don't want to say they were the first ones, but it seems like that was around that time is when the Bond movies started kind of like embracing the idea of using more popular music.
Well, Live and Let Die is a classic that everyone knows too.
But was that made for the movie or was?
Oh yeah, no, it was made for the movie. Paul McCartney.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Paul McCartney made it for the movie, and it's actually Live and Let Die is that is Roger Moore's first Bond movie too. It's the first one he did.
It?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So and then the Guns N' Roses covered Live and Let Die later on. So I mean, if it's good enough to get a cover, there's got to be something
right.
to it.
See, that's what I was thinking of. Guns N' Roses. I didn't even think of the Paul McCartney thing.
No, Paul did that one
totally
first.
forgot about
But more people know the Guns N' Roses version because it's like harder and more. I don't know. It's just I think it's a better version maybe. Sorry, Paul. All right. Well, anyway.
Well, it's a more modern version. David Eddy from chat says Niven died in 1983.
Okay.
So
somebody wrote Snake Eater in the comments. Too bad it's Max not here. He'd love that. But yeah, most people are saying Live and Let Die. Best song, worst visuals. Still, I think You Know My Name is really good.
Oh wait, didn't Sheena Easton do a song?
Yeah.
What the fuck was hers?
That was one of the Timothy Dalton ones, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Let me see.
Oh god. I have to go down this rabbit hole.
So James Bond songs. See, You Know My Name, Chris Cornell. Nobody Does It Better, Carly Simon. Another Way to Die, Jack White. Kiss Kiss.
For
Bang,
Your Eyes
Bang,
Only.
Donnie. Yes, For Your Eyes Only. That's
Your
right.
Eyes Only.
Yep.
There we go.
We have All the Time in the World. Louis Armstrong. You Only Live Twice. Nancy Sinatra. If There Was a Man. The Pretenders. The Experience of Love. Eric Serra. Yeah, Jack White did one, and then there was the one for Spectre. I don't remember who did that one. There was one by Adele too. It was the, but that wasn't so great. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Last story. I'll go ahead and do the last one. So we don't have a write-up for this one because I wanted to read the article. But basically, this is a story about what happened yesterday in Manchester. There was a bombing, and I have an article here by the XX Factor. It's a Slate article, but it's like one of their sort of sub-rags. And it's entitled, "The Bombing at Manchester Ariana Grande Show Was an Attack on Girls and Women." Now, let's go into an article, and then we can talk a little bit about it after I'm done. So, British authorities have identified the suspect in what appears to have been a suicide bombing and an act of terrorism outside of an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, England on May 22nd. Details are still emerging, but as of late Monday night, authorities had confirmed 19 people dead and more than 50 injured. The victims of Monday's bombing will almost certainly be mostly girls and women. The Grande fan demographic also includes a number of older millennial women, gay men, and general lovers of pop music, of course, but her live concerts are largely populated by tween and teenage girls with their mothers. By staging the attack at a Grande show, the perpetrator or perpetrators chose to target children who may or may not have had an adult around to help them through an emergency situation. And they targeted fans of an artist whose global brand is one of blissful, unsubdued feminine sexuality. Grande has been long the target of sexist rhetoric that has deemed her culpable for any sexual objectification or animosity that's come her way. Her songs and wardrobe are sexy, yet she's maintained a coy, youthful persona. The combination has led some haters to argue that she's made her fortune by making people want to have sex with her, so whatever related harm befalls her is entirely her fault. Like her pop superstar predecessor Britney Spears, Grande has advanced a renegade, self-reflexive sexuality that's threatening to the established hetero-patriarchal order. If the Manchester bombing was an act of terrorism, its venue indicates that the attack was designed to terrorize young girls who idolize Grande's image. Terrorism works by making people afraid to go about their daily lives, doing the things that make them feel human and whole. Going to work, shopping at the mall, traveling by plane, dancing to Latin music at a gay club, singing along to a fun pop tune that lets young women envision themselves as powerful sexual beings. All concert goers whose nights ended in panic or tragedy on Monday will suffer some degree of post-traumatic consequences in the coming months and years. But the teens and children are in the audience who are still in the middle of developing their conceptions of themselves and the world may find those notions irrevocably altered. Some observers on Twitter are using this moment to take cheap shots at Grande's music and roll their eyes at the makeup of her audience, as if a disproportionately young female fan base makes an artist somehow unserious. Multiple confirmed fatalities at Manchester Arena. The last time I listened to Ariana Grande, I almost died too, one Boston-based journalist tweeted. Meanwhile, some reports are saying dozens of unaccompanied children are holed up at hotels, waiting alone until their parents and guardians can come find them. These girls are survivors of an orchestrated attack on girls and girlhood, a massive act of gender-based violence.
Oh boy, is that it?
That's it.
Can I fucking get in there?
Yes.
Holy shit, this motherfucker has no self-awareness whatsoever. Talking about how other people are using this thing as a political football, or however they fucking phrased that, I forget, but because I'm just kind of seething right now. This person is literally saying that other people are doing a thing and then doing the fucking thing that she's accusing people of doing that she finds so egregious, or whoever this person is.
Christina Catarucci.
Holy fucking shit, Christina Catarucci. If you ever hear this, you are a fucking stupid cunt. How dare you take the murders of fucking 20 people and turn it into a fucking axe to grind for fucking feminism and patriarchy and all this other horseshit. Jesus fucking Christ, this is stupid.
I think this is actually carefully plotted out, Scott. I will tell you why. Whenever there is an Islamic terror attack,
I know it is. I know it
you know what I'm talking about. They basically distract from the fact that it's Islam, and they try to make it about something else. Mm-hmm. They basically say, oh, like with the guy who killed all those people in Florida at that nightclub, right. They basically say, oh, no, that's not Islam. That's homophobia, which is all over the United States. Everyone's homophobic, and so the guy just happened to be brown at the time. This right here, this isn't Islam. This is heteronormative patriarchal sexism against girls that wanna like discover themselves sexually. And come the fuck on. How many men have to be killed before you start to notice that Islam doesn't give a fuck about you because of your gender or whatever? The radical Islamists want to destroy the West. Because they do. It's not. They don't like the way that
and this was
we
a soft
live.
target. This is what
Yeah,
it was.
it was. It's a soft target.
What they care about is that you are not under their control. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter what country you live in. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are. It doesn't matter what your lifestyle choices are. They're an authoritarian extremist group. The only thing they care about is having control over your behavior or eliminating you because you are considered a cancer to the system if you don't fall under their control. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's authoritarianism in a nutshell. And to be honest, there is no difference between that authoritarianism and any other authoritarianism other than the degree to which they will engage in violence to enforce their particular brand of authoritarianism when they are out of power. That's it. That's the only difference between various types of authoritarianism. So these people that come out with this shaming dialogue really should think twice before they start pushing this shit, because all they are doing is demonstrating their similarity to the people who committed the terrorist acts. What they have in common with those people, the interest in controlling others. And for the record, only women and only the most protected end of the progressive stack, whether you want to say the top or the bottom, only those groups seem to have the privilege of saying that if they are included in a tragedy, if something happens to people and some of the people it happens to are of their group, the fact that it was done because members of their group were there. They're the only ones that have that privilege. Everybody else, it doesn't matter. Everybody else gets ignored. And I honestly, that is an admission of being privileged to have that protection.
Mm-hmm. But also, oh shit. Sorry guys, hold on. There was like noise playing for some reason on one of my. One thing I also want to say is that the gender of the genders of the people killed have not been reported. Right now, when I look at the way that it's being reported, they say 22 dead, 16 injured. One of them, at least one, is a young girl. That's basically how they've put it. And remember, when the media reports on tragedies where lots of people die, you will almost always know how many women were killed. They will almost never tell you how many men are killed.
You know, it's funny. I finally got a chance to watch The Red Pill the other night. And one of the things it was showing the news stories about Boko Haram. Yeah, and it's like, you know, there'd be like 200 boys were killed at a school, and they were like persons, and then one woman. And it's like,
students. Really? They'll say, really? That's how they report. And it's not just with terror attacks. It's just with any disaster. If a plane crashes, they tell you how many women and children were killed, and then the total number. So you have to like do the math to be like, oh yeah, there were guys here. And that's the funny thing is that we don't know how many men were killed at this concert, but I bet you men were killed at this concert. I can guarantee it. And there were probably fathers and brothers and, you know, gay men, as the person who wrote it up says, gay men are like her a lot. I mean, she's basically working off of presumptions and suppositions about what the audience probably is in order to push her fucking, you know, her agenda or whatever. But I'm sure that there were men who died, and I bet there were some that died to protect women. I mean, this is what happens whenever this sort of thing happens. There are always men throwing their lives away in order to protect the women from being hurt. This is the way things are. When the Dark Knight shooter, there were men who threw themselves in the line of fire so that their girlfriends or their sisters or dates or whatever wouldn't get killed. So, you know, and then the few that didn't were shamed for it, for not throwing their lives away. So this is like, it's unbelievable that you could take a tragedy and I mean, like, people are going to use politics on stuff whenever they can. That stuff doesn't shock me, but the fact that you can not even see what you're doing as you're doing it, like that you're just leaving out half the population because you think in this particular case I know girls died, so I got to talk about that. Like you're. This is the reason why. First of all, feminism is not progressive. It's just traditionalism on steroids without thanking men for shit. It's basically the same model where men protect women, but we don't thank men for it. In fact, we basically blame them for everything, and we still expect them to do shit. It's basically that. And then on top of that, feminism, if you follow it logically, it ends up being Sharia law. Because Sharia law exists mainly to... No, it is. It is the consequence of protecting women. Basically, treating your women as though they are Fabergé eggs that need protection. The more security you give to a group of people, the less freedom they have because it's for their own good. Feminism is all about that. It's about securing the safety of women. And if that means subjugating them for their own protection, it treats them like that. And it will lead there. I mean, there are feminists now that say Sharia law is the most feminist religion. And I don't disagree with that. It's true. It's true. And
I got some things to point out here about this story.
Sour,
Okay.
is that what her name is?
Yeah. She actually she has a she's one of the organizers of the Women's March, and she promotes Sharia law. She promotes bringing Sharia law to the West.
Yep.
But regarding this article,
feminism
I
is
clicked on
bacterial
some of
vaginosis. No, so go
yes,
ahead.
if you keep your nose out of your vag, you won't have that problem. Anyway, some of the stuff like where she linked to the phrase whatever related harm befalls her is entirely her fault, goes to an article in which she cites as evidence of this a fan of her boyfriend spoke disrespectfully about the boyfriend's relationship with her, and she went off about it. Ariana Grande went off about being treated like a piece of meat. Sitting in the passenger seat, she thought the fans fanboying over her boyfriend Mac Miller was cute and exciting until he said, "Ariana is sexy as hell, man. I see you hitting that," and she just lost her shit over that. So that her hearing that is what this writer considers, Christina Catarucci considers harm befalling her. Mm-hmm. That some 13-year-old kid said something that was not diplomatic in front of her. Like, I'm sorry, but big fat hairy deal. The other thing is Catarucci's source for the claim that dozens of unaccompanied children are holed up at hotels is a tweet on Twitter by a person. This is not like a verified account. I have no idea who this person is. The account name is just a first name, tweeted to #Manchester, that there were over 60 kids holed up at a particular hotel, and gave a phone number and asked for retweets, and it's been retweeted like 5,000 times. And you scroll down through the responses to it, and there's a lot of compassionate responses and a lot of people wondering how that happened and everything. And then all of a sudden, in the last 2 hours and even 6 hours ago, is people saying, "You've penned a lie of a tweet. Nice numbers, though. No, there are not and never was. This is not true. Please don't spread misinformation. This isn't true. Delete it." And it's actually, apparently, it's been debunked. So this writer is making these hysterical claims without any verifying information. Like, if that's her verifying information, that's the only place that's coming from, is some random person on Twitter made a claim and gave a phone number, and the person's profile doesn't even, like, if you look at you hover over somebody's name and it gives their little blurb that they give to describe themselves, it's just 3 words, not even a full sentence, doesn't say anything about who they are. The individual has like 40 followers. They're following almost twice. They're over twice as many people as they're being followed by, and they have a total of 187 tweets to their name, and that's her source. For the line. Meanwhile, some reports are saying dozens of unaccompanied children are holed up at hotels, waiting alone until their parents and guardians can come find them. That's a source. How does this person know this information? Where did this person get this information? On what position does this person, like, do they work at a hotel and the kids are at their hotel? None of the information that's available gives any indication. So that's what you've got. That's what Slate has as a staff writer. Somebody who takes a random tweet from an unverified account with no self-description, only a first name, a picture that can't even be confirmed whether it's that person's picture or stock photo from somewhere, barely has tweeted anything, and treats it as a verified source.
That never happens.
Just remember that the next time you read something from Slate.
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah, Slate's full of shit. I just wanted to reply to this and also talk about the tragedy at the same time. One other thing, too, about Ariana Grande. Of course, she was completely safe because this happened when she wasn't around. Apparently, before this happened, you may not know, but Ariana Grande was very critical of America. She was, very supportive of progressive ideas. She thought America was racist, and, she was all about open borders and all this other shit that you would expect from a Hollywood pop princess. But after this happened, she made one tweet and wrote, "Broken from the bottom of my heart. I am so, so sorry. I don't have words," and has disappeared. I wonder if this experience is going to affect her worldview.
I would hope so.
I got one more
certainly
thing.
Fucking hope so.
One more thing, because I actually went to the profile. This stellar source is actually from New York.
Oh.
Not even, it's like Manchester is definitely not in New York. So.
Yeah, of course. One other thing,
Jeez.
too, is that some people in the chat were criticizing me for when I said that Islam is Sharia and Islam are very feminist, and I don't disagree when feminists make the argument that they are. One of them said Sharia does not protect women. Wake up. Nope, you are wrong. Sharia exists to protect women. That does not mean it's good for them. What the more you protect something, the less freedoms you have to give it. There is a trade-off between freedom and security. The more freedom you have, the less safe you are, because you need freedom so you can take risks, right? The more protected you are, the less freedom you have. Think of yourself as when you were a child and your parents, depending on how much freedom they allowed you to do whatever you wanted. This is the way it works. You can't have both of these things at the same time. The only thing you can do is work out some balance. Another thing is women under Sharia. Most of them, if they have their faith and they feel strongly about it, which if you grow up in an Islamic country, odds are you do. Most of them probably do because it's all they know. They will tell you they feel very safe and they don't care about their loss of freedom because the trade-off is worth it. The only way that you can make that work is if you teach these women, all right, that the men in their society are so dangerous that they need this much protection to keep them safe. This is the way it has to be. That's the only way that works. And foreign men are worse, right? So this is an exaggerated, over-the-top security for women, and it does put them in that position. I'm not saying it's good. I think, Islam is bad for everyone under Islam. This is the argument we've been making since the fucking beginning. But don't tell me that women are slaves to this system when the people who perpetuate the culture of the system, at least half of them are women. Who do you think raises the kids in an Islamic home? The woman does. What ideas does she pass on to her kids? Islamic ones. Like, where does this, mythology come from that the only people who know how bad Islam is are the men, and they're using it in an exploitative way? And the women, for some reason, they either know and they're just long-suffering under it and, woe is me, there's nothing I can do to change this, or they're just stupid and they don't know. They have bad ideas and they pass them on to their kids. This is not about gender from this perspective. This just goes from parent to child. Who raises kids? The mom does. Most of the time. The father's involved, but in these homes, the mother raises children. She raises them and she gives them ideas and they carry those ideas on. So this is not something that is simply perpetuated from the men. Okay, go ahead.
No, in fact, it's really stupid what I'm seeing in this is people actually articulating the belief that if you indoctrinate a man, that makes him responsible for his indoctrination. But if you indoctrinate a woman, she's a slave. That somehow men have so much more accountability than women, or women so much less accountability than men, that only women's indoctrination enslaves them. Men's indoctrination somehow empowers them. And it's really stupid. Because to be honest, unless you are in that society, unless you are one of the religious leaders who controls the indoctrination, or you are so rich that your money protects you from being attacked by the religious leaders because you're funding their activities, you're not just indoctrinated, but enslaved. You don't have a choice in that society as how do you live. You don't have any more freedom. You know, you might have different aspects to the ways in which you are not free, but the differences mainly are dependent on who is responsible for whom, who is responsible for what in the home, and who is considered more dangerous to whom. You know, who is considered more likely to commit crimes against whom. There's no freedom in that.
Mm-mm.
There's no benefit to that. And I mean, before you start saying that restrictions can't be protective, you might want to consider the fact that we face our own here in the United States, and you face them in Canada, you face them in the UK. There are laws against stupid behavior in every area of the West. Here in the United States, our drug war is about protecting people from their own stupidity. And the people that will step up and say it's stupid to have marijuana be illegal and to fight a drug war over marijuana because we're not achieving the stated goals of the drug war, but a lot more people are dying because of the drug war. And we're not reducing usage or anything. And it turns out that a lot of things about the drug that are being claimed to support the drug war aren't true. That's still a situation of an authoritarian nanny state using legislated restrictions to protect people from their own stupidity. Mm-hmm. No, it's not comparable in terms of the damage that it does to people's lives, because you don't see cops going overseas and suicide bombing other countries because of our drug war. But there is mass death because of it. There is mass incarceration because of it. There is mass loss of freedom because of it. It's when a protective attitude and compassion and caring for people flip past the line of what is actually compassionate and caring to authoritarian social micromanagement. The spectrum between functional protective measures and dysfunctional protective measures includes exactly what Sharia law is. Sharia law is the dysfunctional end of protective measures. It's overprotection. It's authoritarian social micromanagement. It is the ultimate nanny state. The ultimate nanny state kills people to protect themselves from their own stupidity or their own perceived stupidity. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't care what sex you are. The only consideration for what sex you are is what brand of stupidity they're trying to protect you from, and how harsh of a punishment can be meted out to you. Because I haven't seen any news stories about women being crucified, for instance. And crucifixion doesn't kill you right away. It doesn't kill you in 20 minutes. It doesn't usually kill you in a couple of hours. It can take days. Yep. Only men are subjected to that. Only men are accountable enough to be tortured to death over the course of several days by hanging them up on a piece of wood and exposing them to the elements to die of dehydration and starvation and have their eyes pecked out by raptor-type birds like crows. Women don't go through that. And it's not to say that women's suffering is irrelevant. It's not to say that it's not wrong to treat women the way women are treated under Islam. It is to say that to only focus on the way that women are treated under Islam and to not consider the suffering of the majority, the impoverished majority of men under Islam as well. To not call that enslavement is to not address the problem. It's to not address the actual situation. You'll never get rid of it by only addressing half the situation.
Nope.
That's horribly dysfunctional.
I just want to throw in there, somebody in the chat gave us a super chat, so I got to give him a shout out. Hoki Busa writes, he gave us $6.66. But he wrote, Muzzies and Jews, Brian, Muzzies and Jews. So I had to read that one, because that was a throwback to Theron Meyer, who basically just poisoned us forever in the most hilarious way. Thank you, Theron. I love you. All right. Well, I said what I wanted to say about this. So, Scott, do you want to say something else? Mike, nobody.
I don't know that I have anything else to add. Really, I think I pretty well.
All right.
Said what I was going to say.
All right. So, yes, we maintain our stance at HBR. Islam is bad for everybody, which apparently is sexist.
It's controversial.
It means that we think women have it better. That when you say it's bad for everyone, suddenly you think Islam is great, especially for women.
Code speak.
Yeah, that's what we're really saying. Fuck. Would you guys please listen to yourselves what you're doing when you do that? All right. Well, anyway, I guess if there's nothing else,
let's play some Drawful. What do you say?
No, I gotta go on to we gotta do the after show. So we're gonna talk about this article by Time Magazine. Time Magazine, kind of a big article. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. It's kind of a big magazine. The article is called "The Problem with Prosecuting Women for False Rape Allegations." Yup. Like prosecuting women who lie and try to ruin men's lives, that's something that we need to fix because it's bad for women somehow. So we probably shouldn't do it. Yeah, right. That's good. That's
Women
good.
are the real people who suffer when men die at war.
Super
I'm sorry.
predators. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take off, but if you guys want to be a part of the after show, either as a participant or as a passive viewer, you know what to do. Go to our Patreon, become a patron, and you'll be able to join. Also, we still have our fundraiser going because we're trying to do the Australia thing. I think that video shill that we did is up. Is that right, Mike, or does that...
No, I'm gonna wait until we've finished this broadcast and then it's published.
All right, well, there'll be like a fancy ad, but if you don't want to wait for that, you can just go there now and donate at feedthebadger.com so that we can get, basically, I need to be Mike's entourage. So if we can get me to go with him, that would be good for him, specifically. Somebody has to fetch
Send
his...
these damn boys to the outback already, would you?
Yeah.
Jeez. What's wrong with you people? Are you part of the patriarchy or something?
Yeah, I mean, who's going to get a Foster's for him? Isn't that Australian for beer? I think it's
beer. Australian for beer.
It's Australian for beer. Although Australians, if you didn't already know this, if it wasn't news to you, Australians hate Fosters.
It's actually Australian for tourist.
Yeah,
It's like saying that people in San Francisco don't love rice-a-roni, Brian. I don't know if I can believe this.
Right,
That's a San Francisco treat, you know.
All right, well, we're gonna get out of here. Please leave a comment in the low bar, and if you're one of these people who hasn't figured it out yet, this show is not going to be deleted. It's just going to be unlisted. If you have the link, you can still go there, and we also have a playlist of the uncut versions that you can watch. We're doing this in an effort to essentially battle against the YouTube shenanigans, and so far it has been working out in our favor, so it looks like we're going to be doing all this work. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and leave. Thanks for coming on the Polecat cast. Thank you to my co-hosts. And thank you for the people who contributed by helping with the write-ups. We will talk to you guys next time. See you later.